The boy who dreamed beyond Hyderabad. The story begins in the bustling city of Hyderabad, India. In 1967, a baby boy was born to a father who worked as a civil servant and a mother who was a scholar of ancient Sanskrit literature. They named him Satya Nadella. No one knew that this quiet, curious child would one day lead one of the biggest tech companies in the world. Satya grew up in a middle-class home where education was not just encouraged, it was celebrated. His father, a man of discipline, often told him, "Satya, if you want to change your future, you must first change the way you think." His mother, gentle but wise, gave him something equally powerful: the love of learning. She taught him that knowledge wasn't just about getting good grades. It was about understanding the world. But life wasn't always smooth. Satya was a shy, introverted boy. He struggled to stand out among his classmates, often getting lost in the crowd. There were moments when he doubted himself. Will I ever be good enough? He would quietly wonder as he sat by the window after school, books open but mind wandering. And yet, there was one thing that always lit a fire in his heart: technology. He was fascinated by how machines worked. Radios, televisions, even broken gadgets. He would try to open them up, study their insides, and put them back together. That curiosity became his secret superpower. When the first wave of computers started coming to India in the early 1980s, Satya was mesmerized. He saw them not just as machines, but as portals to the future. While others saw them as complicated, he saw possibilities. Nights turned into early mornings as he tried to write small programs, failing again and again, but never giving up. By the time he finished school, one thing was clear: Satya wanted to spend his life building technology. His decision led him to Manipal Institute of Technology, where he studied electrical engineering. It wasn't easy. There were failures, frustrating exams, moments of doubt. But every failure only made him hungrier. Deep inside, Satya Nadella was quietly preparing himself for something bigger, a future that even he couldn't fully imagine yet. Part 2. Crossing oceans, chasing dreams. After finishing his engineering degree, Satya Nadella stood at a crossroads. He could stay in India and take a safe job like many of his classmates, or he could take a leap that could change everything. Deep down, he knew he wanted more than just a job. He wanted to be at the center of innovation, to be where the future was being built. And so, with a mix of hope and fear, he packed his bags and boarded a plane to the United States. It was 1988 when Satya arrived in America, a land that felt like another planet compared to Hyderabad. The streets were bigger, the opportunities wider, but so were the challenges. He enrolled at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee to pursue a master's degree in computer science. The first few months were tough. The cultural shock was real. The cold Wisconsin winters bit into his bones. He missed home, the familiar smells of Indian food, the warmth of family conversations. But every night, as he sat alone in his dorm room, he reminded himself why he was there. This was the price of a dream. Nights turned into early mornings as he worked on programming assignments, fighting through bugs in the code, frustrated but determined. Sometimes, when things got really hard, he would sit quietly and whisper to himself, "One day, this will all make sense." After graduation, Satya landed his first job at Sun Microsystems. It was exciting, but also intimidating. He was a young immigrant surrounded by some of the sharpest minds in the tech world. Mistakes happened. There were times he felt like an outsider, times when he questioned whether he was good enough to compete at this level. But instead of giving up, he chose to grow. Every failure became a lesson, every challenge a stepping stone. And then, in 1992, came the opportunity that would change his life, a job at Microsoft. Back then, Microsoft was already a tech giant, shaping the software world. For Satya, it was a dream come true. But this was just the beginning. He was still a young engineer, far from the corner office, far from the decisions that would one day transform the entire company. What lay ahead were years of hard work, sleepless nights, and choices that would test his character and vision. Part 3. The quiet engineer who would one day lead. When Satya Nadella walked through the doors of Microsoft in 1992, he was just another young engineer with a dream. The company was at its peak, dominating the software world with Windows and Office. For most people, joining Microsoft at that time would have been the destination. But for Satya, this was just the starting line. He didn't come to simply work at Microsoft. He came to grow with it, to shape its future. His early days were far from glamorous. Long hours were spent writing code, fixing bugs, and working on back-end technologies that most people never even see. But Satya had something special, a hunger to learn. Colleagues remember him as the guy who asked questions no one else thought to ask. Why are we doing it this way? He would ask softly during meetings, his voice calm but curious. That curiosity earned him respect. But the journey wasn't without obstacles. Microsoft was full of brilliant, competitive minds. Sometimes his ideas were dismissed. Sometimes projects didn't work as planned. There were moments of frustration when months of hard work seemed to go unnoticed. Satya had to fight the temptation to become cynical, to simply go through the motions. Instead, he chose a different path. He chose empathy and collaboration over ego. This mindset became his secret weapon. Slowly, he rose through the ranks, moving from developer to manager, then to senior roles. Each step was earned, not given. One of his biggest tests came when he took charge of building Microsoft's cloud platform. At the time, cloud computing was still a risky bet, and many doubted whether Microsoft could compete with companies like Amazon. Satya saw something others didn't. The future was in the cloud. Under his leadership, Microsoft's cloud business began to take shape. It wasn't easy. There were technical failures, sleepless nights, and constant pressure to deliver results. But Satya kept his calm, motivating his team not with fear, but with vision. He would often tell them, "Our job is not just to build great technology, but to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more." By the late 2000s, Satya Nadella was no longer just a quiet engineer. He had become one of Microsoft's most trusted leaders, a man known for his humility, clarity, and ability to inspire others. The stage was being set for something even bigger, a future where Satya would not just influence Microsoft, but lead it through its most difficult transformation yet. Part 4. When the giant started to stumble. By the early 2010s, Microsoft was no longer the unstoppable giant it once was. The world had changed. Smartphones were everywhere. The cloud was taking over, and competitors like Apple, Google, and Amazon were rewriting the rules of technology. Inside Microsoft, morale was shaky. The company was seen as slow, stuck in the past, a giant struggling to find its footing in a new digital era. It was during this storm that Satya Nadella's leadership would be tested like never before. He had already made a name for himself leading the cloud division, quietly building Azure into a serious competitor in the market. But the pressure was intense. Every quarterly result, every analyst's report, every failed product felt like another reminder that Microsoft was slipping behind. Satya, however, remained calm. He believed Microsoft still had a soul. It just needed to rediscover it. During team meetings, he spoke not just about products, but about purpose. "We are not here just to build software," he would say. "We are here to empower people, to change lives." His words were not loud or dramatic, but they carried weight. Slowly, teams began to rally. Then came 2014, a turning point. After Steve Ballmer stepped down as CEO, Microsoft needed someone who could take the company into the future. Many names were considered, but Satya Nadella, the quiet engineer from Hyderabad, who had spent more than 2 decades learning the company from the inside, emerged as the choice. When the announcement was made, Satya felt the weight of the moment. He wasn't just taking over a company, he was inheriting a legacy and a crisis. In his first letter to employees, he didn't speak like a distant CEO. He spoke like a teammate. He reminded everyone that innovation was about rediscovering Microsoft's mission to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. But the road ahead wasn't going to be easy. He had to make bold decisions, cut programs that weren't working, shift the company's focus toward cloud computing, and rebuild Microsoft's culture from the ground up. The world was watching. If he failed, it could mean the end of Microsoft as a tech leader. If he succeeded, it would be one of the greatest corporate turnarounds in history. Part 5. Rebuilding the soul of Microsoft. When Satya Nadella became CEO in 2014, he knew his mission wasn't just about profits or products. It was about bringing Microsoft back to life. The company had become known for its internal rivalries and a know-it-all culture that slowed innovation. Satya wanted to change that. He wanted Microsoft to be a place where people felt free to experiment, to take risks, to dream big again. In his very first months, Satya made a bold move. He shifted the company's focus from a Windows-first strategy to a cloud-first, mobile-first world. Many thought it was risky. Some even called it crazy. But Satya believed the future was in empowering developers and businesses through Azure and cloud technology. And slowly, the gamble began to pay off. But his biggest change wasn't technical, it was human. He started talking about empathy, about understanding customers, partners, and even colleagues. He told his team that the most important skill was not coding or designing, but listening. Empathy makes you a better innovator, he said. This was unusual for a tech CEO, but it resonated. Engineers started working together more. Silos started breaking down. And Microsoft began moving faster than it had in years. Under Satya's leadership, Microsoft made daring acquisitions, buying LinkedIn, GitHub, and later Activision Blizzard, each move signaling that Microsoft was ready to play big again. Azure became one of the top cloud platforms in the world, transforming Microsoft's image from a legacy software company into a leader of the digital future. Financially, the results were staggering. Microsoft's market value tripled under Satya's leadership, crossing the $1 trillion mark. But more than the numbers, The spirit of the company had changed, and employees felt proud again. The tech world started talking about Microsoft not as a dinosaur, but as an innovator. Satya's transformation was deeply personal too. He often spoke about his son Zain, who was born with cerebral palsy, and how caring for him taught Satya patience and compassion. This experience shaped his philosophy as a leader, that a company's true strength lies in its ability to serve humanity, not just shareholders. Satya Nadella had done more than save Microsoft. He had rebuilt its soul, proving to the world that empathy and innovation could coexist. And when they do, they can change everything. Part 6. The Heart Behind the Vision. Satya Nadella's journey is not just about technology or corporate triumphs. It's about the man behind the vision. While the world watched him rebuild Microsoft, those closest to him knew another side. A father, a husband, and a deeply empathetic human being who carried both triumphs and personal struggles in quiet dignity. Family has always been at the core of Satya's life. His marriage to Anupama Nadella brought him stability and love amid the chaos of a demanding career. Together, they raised 3 children, navigating the everyday challenges that come with family life. But nothing tested his heart more than his eldest son, Zain, who was born with cerebral palsy. Satya has often shared that caring for Zain taught him lessons that no business school ever could: patience, humility, and the power of unconditional love. He realized that true leadership isn't about authority or strategy alone. It's about understanding the struggles of those you serve and leading with empathy. Even as CEO, Satya remains remarkably grounded. Colleagues speak of him as approachable, willing to listen to ideas regardless of rank. He celebrates collaboration over ego and believes in creating an environment where every voice matters. This human-centered approach, rare in the high-stakes tech world, is what allowed him to transform Microsoft's culture so profoundly. Satya's own words often reflect his philosophy: be curious, be empathetic, never stop learning. He reads constantly, not just about technology, but about people, history, and culture. He understands that growth is not linear and that failure is often the most profound teacher. Every setback he faced, from early career doubts to corporate challenges, shaped the man who now leads one of the world's most influential companies with grace and vision. And perhaps the most inspiring lesson is that success does not diminish the need for humanity. Satya's story reminds us that it's possible to be powerful and compassionate at the same time. His life teaches us that empathy fuels innovation, that patience builds resilience, and that the impact of a leader is measured not just in profit, but in the lives they touch. Satya Nadella is proof that greatness is not only about what you achieve, but about who you become while achieving it. A man who dared to dream, who stumbled, learned, and ultimately led with heart. Part 7. From Dreams to Legacy. Lessons from Satya Nadella. Every journey has a destination, but the true measure of a life is found in the lessons it leaves behind. Satya Nadella's story, from a curious boy in Hyderabad to the CEO of Microsoft, is not just about success, wealth, or recognition. It is a story about perseverance, empathy, and the relentless pursuit of growth. Looking back, it's clear that his rise was never accidental. Each struggle, every late night spent debugging code, the moments of self-doubt and small failures were building blocks. They taught him humility, patience, and the power of asking questions that others might avoid. Satya's journey reminds us that obstacles are not roadblocks, but stepping stones, opportunities to learn, adapt, and emerge stronger. Perhaps the most remarkable part of Satya's story is his focus on empathy. In a world obsessed with speed, profit, and competition, he dared to lead with compassion, whether it was caring for his son, mentoring a junior engineer, or listening to the concerns of his employees. Satya showed that empathy is not a weakness, it is a strength. It is what allowed Microsoft to transform, to innovate, and to inspire loyalty and creativity across the globe. Innovation and leadership, he demonstrates, are inseparable from humanity. Great leaders do not just deliver results. They cultivate culture, inspire vision, and lift others as they climb. Satya's decisions, moving Microsoft to the cloud, embracing open source technologies, and acquiring companies like LinkedIn were bold, but they were also guided by a deep understanding of people and purpose. His story leaves us with lessons that transcend business. Never fear failure, because every setback is a lesson. Lead with curiosity, because learning never stops. Let empathy guide your actions, because understanding others is the foundation of real influence. And finally, dream beyond what seems possible, because audacious goals are the first step toward lasting impact. Satya Nadella's life is a testament to the extraordinary potential within every person. Who dares to combine vision with humility, ambition with compassion, and knowledge with heart? From a small boy with a passion for machines to a global leader shaping the future of technology, Satya proves that greatness is not just what you achieve, but the legacy you leave. One of inspiration, empathy, and the courage to dream bigger than anyone thought possible. Part 8. The man who redefined leadership. Satya Nadella's journey doesn't end with titles, profits, or market dominance. His story is a living example of how true leadership is measured, not by authority, but by impact, empathy, and the ability to inspire transformation in others. By the time he had fully established himself as Microsoft's CEO, the world began to notice something rare: a leader who wielded power with humility. Leadership, for Satya, has always been deeply personal. He understands that behind every employee, every engineer, every business partner, there is a human being with hopes, struggles, and untapped potential. He listens, he encourages, and he empowers. Under his guidance, Microsoft evolved from a company known for competition and hierarchy into a culture of collaboration and innovation. People didn't just work there, they thrived, creating technologies that touch billions of lives around the globe. The transformation of Microsoft under Satya is also a testament to vision, grounded in courage. The cloud, once considered risky, cross-platform software, once resisted, open source collaboration, once shunned, Satya took them all on. He embraced change while balancing stability, ensuring that the company's legacy was preserved even as it boldly stepped into the future. His decisions were never impulsive. They were deliberate, empathetic, and visionary. Beyond business, Satya's life teaches lessons that transcend the corporate world. He shows us that personal challenges, like caring for a child with cerebral palsy, can become sources of insight and strength. That curiosity, cultivated from childhood, can become the foundation of a lifetime of innovation. That humility is not a weakness, but the fuel for meaningful leadership. And that empathy is not just a moral choice, it is a practical, transformative force. Satya's impact is now seen everywhere. In the technology we use, the teams we admire, and the corporate culture that values people as much as products. He proves that greatness is not about being the loudest voice in the room, but about lifting others while steering toward a bold vision. In the end, Satya Nadella reminds us of a profound truth. Leadership is not inherited, it is cultivated. Success is not defined by wealth, it is defined by the lives you touch. And dreams, no matter how impossible they seem, are achievable when paired with empathy, resilience, and relentless curiosity. He is more than a CEO. He is a mentor to the world, a visionary whose journey continues to inspire generations to dream bigger and lead better. Part 9. Innovation through empathy. The Satya Effect. Satya Nadella's leadership is not just about technological breakthroughs. It's about innovation born from understanding people. From the very beginning, Satya believed that technology without empathy is incomplete. He often says, we need to understand the human experience first, then design the technology around it. This philosophy became the cornerstone of his approach at Microsoft, shaping not just products, but the very culture of the company. When he pushed Microsoft to embrace the cloud, it wasn't just about competing with Amazon or redefining enterprise computing. It was about empowering businesses, developers, and organizations around the world to achieve more. Azure became a platform not just for computing, but for possibility, for startups to dream big, for non-profits to reach further, and for students to access learning in ways that were never possible before. Every decision was guided by a vision. Technology should serve humanity, not the other way around. Satya's empathy-driven innovation also showed in unexpected ways. He encouraged collaboration with competitors, embraced open-source projects, and broke down internal silos that had stifled creativity for years. Engineers who had once worked in isolation began to share ideas freely, fueling breakthroughs that made Microsoft a hub of invention once again. It was a cultural shift as much as a technological one, proving that leadership rooted in human understanding can unlock unprecedented potential. But what truly sets Satya apart is his personal humility. Despite leading one of the largest companies in the world, he remains deeply aware of his own journey. He often reflects on his upbringing in Hyderabad, the struggles of adapting to a new country, and the challenges of balancing family life with professional ambition. These experiences give him perspective, patience, and a rare ability to connect with people at all levels. His story teaches a powerful lesson. True innovation requires more than intellect. It requires heart. To lead effectively, you must listen, understand, and inspire. To create meaningful technology, you must anticipate real human needs. Satya Nadella shows that when empathy meets vision, it can transform not just a company, but the world. Today, Satya's legacy continues to grow. In the products we use, the culture he nurtured, and the countless lives touched by his leadership, he reminds us that success is not only measured in numbers or awards, but in the impact we have on others, the problems we solve, and the dreams we help make possible. Part 10. Legacy of a Dreamer. The Satya Nadella story. Every story has an ending, But some stories leave echoes that last a lifetime. Satya Nadella's journey from a curious boy in Hyderabad to the transformative CEO of Microsoft is one of those rare stories, a testament to resilience, empathy, and the power of vision. His life shows us that greatness is never given. It is earned through curiosity, perseverance, and the courage to embrace both failure and opportunity. Satya's path was never linear. From struggling to adapt in a new country, to navigating early career setbacks, to leading one of the largest companies in the world through turbulent times, he faced obstacles that would have discouraged most. Yet, he didn't just survive, he thrived. He turned doubt into fuel, challenges into lessons, and personal hardships into empathy. Every failure was a stepping stone. Every small victory a building block toward a legacy that would redefine leadership in the modern world. Under Satya's guidance,